Welcome back, everybody. It's me, number 10, the hitchhiker. A man was driving through the desert when he suddenly had to slam on his brakes for a hitchhiker who appeared in the middle of nowhere. He let her in, and she told him that she was on her way to Las Vegas. She got into the car with a backpack and a small suitcase. But after about an hour of driving, she turned around and said that she actually wanted to go to Death Valley. This would have taken them off the beaten path for miles. Still, the driver agreed. About half an hour later, they stopped at a gas station. And while the driver went inside, the girl waited in the car. That's when another man got into the passenger seat and said that he needed a ride to Death Valley. The driver came out and was like, "Whoa, I thought you were going to Death Valley." The girl then said that she actually wasn't, and she got out of the car and left. As soon as she did, the man in the passenger seat pulled out a gun and said that he wanted to rob the driver, so now the driver has two options: get shot or drive into the desert to some unknown location where the guy wants to go. He obviously chose the latter. After driving for about 20 minutes, the guy told the driver to pull over so he could relieve himself. Then he ran off into the desert, leaving the driver to make his way back to civilization. Number 9. Lost in the Dunes. In 2014, 3 friends decided to visit the Alvor Desert in Oregon. They wanted to see the hot springs in the area and also camp out under the stars. As they were hiking to their campsite, they had no idea that they were getting lost. When they finally realized it, it was already dark. They couldn't find their car and they didn't have any service. They were completely lost. They started walking in random directions, hoping to find a road or something familiar, but all they found was a bunch of sand dunes. Soon, their clothes became covered in sand, and they were exhausted from walking. They kept following one direction for about half an hour until they saw headlights in the distance. They started running towards the lights, but when the cars passed, they just kept driving. The guys figured that they might be standing in the wrong spot and that their car might be closer than they thought. So they kept searching and ended up spending the night in the middle of the desert. Luckily, the next morning, a group of off-roaders found them and gave them a ride to their car, which was only 200 yards away. They had been walking in circles the whole time without even realizing it. Number 8. The Abandoned Amusement Park. An abandoned amusement park in the middle of the desert. Sounds like a good place to go exploring, right? Well, it is if you don't end up camping there overnight, like these people did. A group of explorers decided to go check out the Peninsula State Park in Michigan, which closed down in 1976. They walked around the grounds taking pictures of everything until the sun began to set. Once it was too dark to see, they lit a bonfire and started telling scary stories. As the night went on, things started to get weird. They heard strange noises in the trees and even saw what looked like a shadow man. Then one of the explorers noticed a pentagram carved into a nearby tree. That's when the scary stories ended because nobody wanted to talk anymore. Then, in the middle of the night, they heard what sounded like screams in the forest. Obviously, they spent the rest of the night terrified and making sure that their fire stayed lit. When the sun came up, they searched the area for the source of the screams and found nothing. Some say that the amusement park was built on an Indian burial ground. And when the workers started digging the foundation, they unearthed the bones of hundreds of people. Maybe that's why they heard screams in the middle of the night. Number 7. The Hook Man. The Hook Man is a killer who supposedly stalks lovers at night and hooks them to trees with a meat hook. There are many legends about him in different states, but one of the scariest ones comes from North Carolina. two young lovers were driving down a deserted road near Wilmington when they started hearing chains dragging metal moans. They continued driving until they reached the intersection of two roads. That's when they saw a man hanging from a tree by a meat hook. He was breathing heavily and motioning for the couple to come closer. Of course, they started driving away, but then they heard a loud voice behind them saying, "You can't outrun the hook, man." They turned around and saw him falling to the ground, still dragging his chains. Terrified, they hit the gas and sped off. When they finally stopped, they looked back to see the hook man crawling out of his grave and slowly making his way towards their car. He continued moving until he reached the road and vanished into the bushes. The couple never saw him again, but they do believe that he's still out there waiting for unsuspecting victims. Number 6, Skeleton Canyon. Skeleton Canyon is located in southeastern Arizona, and as its name implies, it's full of skeletons. The canyon was once home to the indigenous Soba people, but in the early 1900s, the U.S. government relocated them. They left their land and never returned. In 1939, prospectors discovered the area and found dozens of human bones scattered across the ground. They continued finding bones over the years, and it's estimated that over 100 people were killed and buried there. The discovery of the remains led to the creation of a state park, and visitors were allowed to take the bones home with them. Yeah, this actually happened. People were stealing bones from the park, and eventually the government had to post signs warning people not to take any bones or other artifacts. Many people believe that the area is cursed, and bad things happen to those who steal from it. To this day, people still visit the park to search for bones and learn more about the history of the area. Number 5, Terror in the Desert. This story comes from an unnamed woman who says that she experienced terror in the desert while on vacation. She was driving through New Mexico with her family when they had a blowout. While her husband and son changed the tire, she stayed in the car with her daughter, and that's when she saw a pair of eyes staring at them from the desert. She described them as yellow cat eyes shining in the moonlight. She continued staring at the eyes as they approached the car, and she could hear the creature making weird noises. Her daughter started crying, but before her husband could come over and investigate, the creature ran away. They were able to drive to their hotel that night, but the next morning they returned to the spot where they had the blowout. They searched for the animal, but they couldn't find anything. To this day, they don't know what the creature was, and they're terrified to return to New Mexico. Number 4, Deadly Hitchhiker. While hitchhiking is generally considered to be safe, that's not always the case. Just ask these two men who picked up a hitchhiker in Texas in 1981. The trio was traveling through the small town of Marathon when they encountered a man walking along the highway. He had a guitar and a sleeping bag, and he asked the men if they could give him a ride. They agreed, and he hopped into the truck bed. For several hours they drove in silence until the man in the truck asked if he could use the toilet. One of the men drove him to a nearby gas station and waited for him while he used the facilities. When he came out, he noticed a big cut on the man's arm, and he started asking questions. The hitchhiker lied and said that he had cut himself shaving, but after they drove off, the man pretended to pass out and hit his head on the dashboard. Then he grabbed the driver's gun and shot him. He turned to the passenger and demanded that he drive him to El Paso. The man refused, so the hitchhiker punched him in the face. He then made the passenger drive to a secluded area and shot him multiple times. Luckily, the passenger was able to play dead, and the hitchhiker drove off. He was later identified as a drifter named Israel Keys, and he became the suspect in several other murders. Number 3. Creature feature. In 2014, a man was hiking in the desert when he spotted a large animal lounging in the sun. At first he assumed that it was a lizard, but when he got closer, he realized that it was unlike any reptile he had ever seen before. It had green scales and a long tail, and was basking in the sun like a lizard. He took several pictures before it slithered away. Many people have since come forward, claiming to have seen similar creatures in the desert, leading many to believe that there may be some sort of swamp monster living in the area. One witness said it was about 4 feet long and looked like a cross between a crocodile, a salamander, and an iguana. It almost looked like it had gills, too. I couldn't believe my eyes. I've lived here my whole life and never seen anything like it. Number 2. The Lost Dutchman's Gold. The Lost Dutchman's Gold refers to a lost mine somewhere in the Superstition Mountains in Arizona. Legend says that Jacob Waltz discovered the mine in 1840 and filled it with gold and jewels. However, he kept the location a secret until he died in 1891. After his death, a man named Jesse Dean supposedly discovered the mine, but shortly after he was killed by rival prospectors who were trying to steal his claim. His body was never recovered, and neither was the gold. Many people have tried to find the lost Dutchman's gold over the years, but it's never been found. Some say that it doesn't exist at all, but others say that it's out there waiting to be found. No. 1. The Desert Creature. In 2008, a hiker in Utah captured what many believe to be Bigfoot on camera. The footage shows a large, hairy creature walking through the desert. It was never confirmed to be Bigfoot, but some believe that it may be the elusive Yeti. The video has been analyzed extensively, and many people claim that it shows a real creature and not a hoax. What do you think? Let me know in the comments below. Thanks for watching. Remember to subscribe if you haven't already, and I'll see you next time. Bye.